So, what if I told you that one of the world's oldest spiritual texts is actually a step-by-step guide for getting through your worst-case scenario? That's exactly how we're going to look at the Bhagavad Gita, and it all starts right here, in Chapter 1, with a complete and total breakdown. There's the saying, the Bhagavad Gita is an answer to every question in the world. Now, that's a pretty bold claim, right? It's saying there's a solution in here for literally any problem you could ever face. So you have to ask, what kind of monumental crisis would require an answer this profound? Well, we're about to find out. All right, Section 1, the battlefield is set. This whole epic conversation, it doesn't kick off with some grand divine announcement. It actually starts with a really human moment, an anxious question from a blind king, Dhritarashtra. He's miles away from the action, and he turns to his advisor, Sanjay, and just says, "Tell me what's happening. What does it look like out there where my sons are about to fight my nephews?" And here is the first major idea we've got to grab onto. The battlefield has a name, Kurukshetra, but it's also called Dharma Shatra, the field of righteousness. See, it's not just a physical place, it's a metaphor for our battlefields. It's that tough conversation you have to have at work, it's that moment you have to choose between the easy way and the right way. Kurukshetra? Well, that's your life, every time you're faced with a big moral decision. Okay, Section 2, sizing up the challenge. So, out on this battlefield, we meet Prince Duryodhana. And his first move is honestly something straight out of a modern business playbook. He doesn't just charge in, he does a full-on risk assessment. He walks over to his mentor, Drona, to get a good, hard look at both his army and the one across the field. And he starts listing them off. He sees the heavy hitters on the other side, the Pandavas. And then he looks at his own side with his supposedly unbeatable commanders. He's being a pretty sharp strategist here, right? He's analyzing the competition, sizing up their key players, and then looking at his own assets. It's classic strategy. But, and this is a huge but, this is where his sharp strategy gets totally derailed by his fatal flaw, arrogance. After doing all this analysis, he just declares his side invincible. He truly believes that because he has the bigger army, he's automatically in the right. And as we all know, pride like that, it's usually the first step off a very, very high cliff. Section 3, the roar of war. So, with the planning done, the war begins. But not with an arrow, it begins with a sound. The great elder warrior, Bhishma, raises his conch shell and blows a blast so loud the text says it sounds like a lion's roar. This isn't just a signal to start, this is pure psychological warfare. It's meant to pump up his own troops and terrify the enemy. The battle for morale is on. Now the Pandavas, they don't just blow their conches back. They unleash what's basically a symphony of motivation. Krishna, Arjuna, Bhima, all the heroes on their side. They each blow their own personal, named conch. This is more than just a reply. Think of it as each one of them playing their own personal hype song to get their courage up for what's coming. And the results of this symphony? It's absolutely devastating. The Gita says the sound shatters the hearts of their enemies. That tells you everything. This wasn't just noise. It was a wave of pure, unshakable confidence that crashed into the other army and broke their spirit before a single sword was even lifted. And now we get to Section 4, a warrior's moment of truth. This is where everything changes. Our hero, Arjuna, the greatest archer in the world, makes a request. He turns to his chariot driver, who, just happens to be the god Krishna in disguise, and asks him to do something pretty strange. He says, "Take me to the middle of the battlefield." He literally says, "Place my chariot between the two armies." Think about that. He's not trying to get a tactical advantage. He wants to go right into the no man's land, look his enemy right in the eye, and truly understand the reality of what's about to happen. At this moment, that's an act of incredible bravery. So Krishna does it. He drives the chariot right into that terrifying space between the lines. And Arjuna looks across the field, and he just freezes. Because he doesn't see an anonymous army of villains. He sees his great-grandfather. He sees his teachers. He sees his uncles, his cousins, his childhood friends, all of them armed and ready to kill him. And this really is the question for all of us, isn't it? Just take a second and really put yourself there. Could you actually do it? Could you fight the very people who raised you and loved you for any reason at all? It's a truly impossible, soul-crushing choice. And in Arjuna, we're about to see what that choice does to a person. Which brings us to our final section, the anatomy of despair. Because when faced with this impossible reality, the world's greatest warrior doesn't just hesitate. He completely falls apart. We're about to watch a hero crumble. not from an enemy's weapon, but from the inside out. The text describes this breakdown with almost clinical detail. First comes the pity, and his limbs feel weak. Then his body betrays him. His mouth goes dry, he starts shaking uncontrollably. His resolve just dissolves. His legendary bow, the Gandiva, practically a part of him, it just slips right out of his hand. And then, completely defeated, he collapses onto the seat of his chariot. But it's so important to see that this isn't about fear. It's a crisis of conscience. He starts making these incredibly logical arguments to Krishna. He says, what good is a kingdom if we have to kill our family to get it? This is a sin. It will destroy society itself. He's not running from a fight. He's running from a future he can't bear to create. And then he delivers the final heartbreaking blow. He says it would be better for him to just stand there, unarmed, and let them kill him, than for him to raise a hand against them. He has reached absolute rock bottom, a place where his own death seems like the better option. And there it is. The central problem of the entire Bhagavad Gita is now laid bare. The hero is broken. The most powerful warrior on the planet has given up before the battle has even begun. The crisis we talked about at the start, it's here, and it's total. So that leaves us with the one massive question hanging in the air. How do you fix this? How do you rebuild a hero who has completely lost his way? How do you give purpose back to someone in total despair? Well, the answer to that's the rest of the story. And it all gets started in Chapter 2.